What's up, everyone? My name's Colt, and today I want to talk to you about something that just kind of came back to me. Earlier this week, I had lunch with a good friend of mine. I went to high school with him. Haven't seen him in a long time. It's besides just kind of there at church and everything, like a year and a half ago. I haven't really talked to him much in the last 18 years. But I got to meet up with him for lunch earlier this week. And shout out to him because this really brought everything back as far as kind of what I've been doing, but it's very important to be reminded of it. And it's the notion of staying broke. Now, I don't mean that in such a way that you just never want to have money and you want to spend everything you make and everything like that. It's actually the exact opposite. So he was telling me a story of, how him and his wife, they make pretty good money, and she does most of the finances for him. So she came to him and said, hey, until payday, you have like $50 to get you through for the next couple days. And at first he was pretty upset. And he said, what are you doing with all the money? Where's all the money going? We make good money. I know we don't spend a whole lot. Where's it going? And she said, well, we got savings. And so then he goes, well, then we're not broke. And she reminded him, yes, we are broke because that savings, we're not touching it. And it was because of that mentality, that they were able to pay cash for an adoption. And it was a substantial amount. They just wrote a check. But they would have never been able to do that had his wife not had that mentality around money. And he even admitted that if it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have money, because he doesn't think that way. He'll spend it just as fast as it comes in. And so that was a good lesson that I was reminded of on how the rich keep getting richer and why the poor and the middle class keep struggling. And it's not because the rich are greedy or anything like that, or they're holding out. It's they know the principles of money. And so I've heard this principle before, I just couldn't pinpoint it. And then it came to me last night that it's really from Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'll link to it in the description down below. But if you haven't read that, I'm telling you, you got to check that book out. I've read it probably 5 or 6 times, and that's the one book that got me started on investing for my future and gave me a little bit of insight of how the wealthy really handle money. So I went back to that book, and I got to looking at the pages where he talks about the flow of money. And whether you're poor, whether you're middle class, or whether you're rich, there are 3 different routes that money will take. And every one of them's different. The poor have their jobs, and they'll get the salary, and then their salary goes to pay for their expenses. They don't have very many liabilities because they don't typically have cars or big houses or anything like that. Keep in mind, they don't have a lot of money coming in from their jobs. So their avenue of wealth, the path of cash for them, is quite a bit different than somebody of the middle class and the rich. So they don't have a whole lot of expenses, so they're just paying taxes. They pay for rent, their food, transportation, clothing, that kind of stuff. So they don't really have a whole lot of extra money to put towards assets or anything. Now the middle class, they're not much better than the poor. And I have to admit, I fell into this class quite a bit. And it's more of a mentality. It's not necessarily how much money you make, but it's more the mentality that goes about it, because I did the exact same flow of money that the book talks about when it comes about how they invest their money. And as you can see, the middle class, they invest their money in liabilities. So they buy a bigger house, they buy a newer car, they get into a lot of credit card debt. They spend more than they make. And so they don't put any of their salary into assets to help them make money. Instead, they put all their salary to go to pay for their lifestyle. And they only have a salary, and so the money that they work for is the only thing that's paying for that lifestyle. And so it goes out through expenses, paying for the taxes, paying for the big mortgage payment, paying for the car payment, the credit cards, the school loan, everything you can imagine, and there's nothing left over to build any wealth. So it's at this point I want you to ask yourself, are you caught up in the flow of money just like the poor or middle class? And that's a tough question to answer because honestly, it takes a real big gut check. You know, I didn't want to think that myself, but it's the fact that I saw I wasn't investing in assets like the rich do. And in turn, that's what was keeping me in the middle class. And there's nothing wrong with the middle class, but you just got to understand that there's a gap that's growing between the rich and the middle class. But it's not because the rich are greedy or evil. It's because the middle class don't think this way. And it's a different education that you got to get for yourself. And you really got to understand how money works, how it flows through your hands, and are you doing everything that you possibly can to buy assets and save money. So let's take a look at what the rich do and how the flow of their money goes through their pocketbook, and let's see if it's any different. So as you can see, the rich, basically their money comes from assets. Now let's back up just a little bit, and you got to have money coming in, right? It does take a little bit of money to make money, or it takes a great idea that you could put a team together and a team of investors or something, create the idea and actually come up with something to offer to the public and create money that way. So it's not, I gotta have $100,000 before I can even start investing. No, that's not how it works. See, the rich, they take any active income money that they make, and they immediately buy assets. And then the things that are left over, that's how they pay for their liabilities. So if they want to go get a new car, they don't mind getting a new car, but they understand that they have to buy assets first, and the assets will pay for the car. So let's just put this in a real world scenario. If you want a new car, and the new car is going to cost you $500 a month, and the new car is going to cost you, let's just say $30,000. You're better off to take the $30,000, go invest in buying a duplex or a multifamily unit, buy the asset, then the asset's going to make you money. It's going to bring you in cash flow each and every month through the rent. Let's say each and every month you bring in $500 through that duplex. That's your cash flow, that's your profit. Well, then you take the $500 and you go buy the car. So when the car's paid off, then you still have an asset that's producing monthly residual income. So now just imagine if you went and did it the way that 95% of our society does it. Instead of going and buying the asset first, you went and bought the car. Even if you would have paid cash for it, then at the end of what would have been the payment term, even though you paid cash, I get it, but at the end of 5 years or 6 years or however long, what do you have? Hopefully you saved the cash each and every month that you would have had on the payment, and you would have been a little bit better off than the majority of people. But the problem is, we know that most people will finance that car. And so that $500 a month goes to pay the car, but there's no asset paying for it. So you're literally going off to your job and you're working to pay for your car, instead of going off to your job and working to pay for assets that are eventually going to pay for your lifestyle. So if you really look at the idea behind staying broke and always paying yourself first, I know you probably heard of that term, but you got to take it to a different level. You pay yourself first and you say, no matter what, I am putting money back and I'm going to start buying assets first and keeping my expenses low. It's things like, should we buy a new house? Should we buy a bigger car or a newer car or something? Well, when you really look at whether those things are assets or liabilities, and I'm even a real estate broker, but I will tell you, your primary home, the home that you pay for, that's your biggest liability out of all your expenses. Of course, we're taught to say things like, your home is your biggest asset. Well, your home is only your biggest asset if it's putting money in your pocket every month. See, the difference between an asset and a liability is, does it put money in your pocket each and every month? If it doesn't, if you're paying for it out of your pocket, that's a liability. So even if you have a mortgage and you have a home and it might go up in value, which over time it typically does, you are paying for that out of your pocket each and every month. So therefore it's a liability. Now, if you buy an apartment complex or a duplex or a rental property, single family home, and you rent that property out, and that property, after all your expenses, it makes you $100 or $200 a month, that is an asset. That puts money in your pocket each and every month. So what I'm telling you is, bring in your income from your full-time job or however you make money. It could be a side hustle, whatever. And take that money and invest in assets as much as you can. I get right off the bat it's not going to be easy. But over time, that amount should be able to increase because you're investing in assets that are going to pay you money. And it could be something small. You can invest in dividend-paying stock. You could go buy stock in Target or whatever that pays dividends each and every month. I personally, when I invest in the stock market, I do real estate investment trusts. So my dividend payouts pay out at about an average of 10 to 12% each year, and I get paid once a quarter off those stocks. So you could buy a stock. Right now they're trading at like $7 a share. So take $7, go buy a stock, and then when they pay out a dividend every quarter, you get paid. That's how you build wealth. And then you take that investment and you reinvest it, and eventually you're going to have more passive income than active income. You see, Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams Realty, he wrote a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. If you haven't read it, that's another book I really recommend you go read. So read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. But in the book, he talks about the path of passive income. Where does your money come from? And as you can see over on the left-hand side, 100% of your money that's coming in each month when you first get started in investing is going to come from the money you get from working for it. You have to go work for your money. But as you continue to invest and let those investments grow, and each and every month you're getting paid more income from your passive income, eventually 100% of your money will be coming from investment income. So more passive type income. So I hope that chart was helpful, because what it means to me is when you first start, you're going to work hard for your money, and 100% of your income is going to come from your efforts. But the goal is to try to get your passive income, your investments, to start replacing that income. And over time, you're going to create more and more income, and you're going to invest more and more back into your investments and buy more assets, which is in turn going to give you more income. So do what the rich do, and don't do what 95% of people out there who are basically like this donkey chasing a carrot. And the carrot represents consumerism. The carrot is the new car that the donkey wants. The carrot is the bigger house. The carrot is everything that's going to keep you from financial freedom. So do what the rich do. Buy assets, stay broke, live off as little as you can, and when you buy those assets, don't live off that income right away. Keep reinvesting that income, keep buying more assets, and eventually you're going to build an empire of passive income streams. It might not just be stock dividends, it could be real estate, it could be mortgage notes, it could be anything that's going to bring you passive income. It could be starting a YouTube channel and getting money from AdSense, when people watch ads. It could be something as simple as that. You put in the effort up front, and over time, those build up to be very big passive income streams. If you found value in what you heard today, please do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and go ahead and hit the notification bell so that you're notified each and every time that I come out with a new video. So with that, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.